Hey NFL fans, welcome to Next Play Analysis. Today, we're diving deep into the Minnesota Vikings 2024 season so far. The Vikings have shown an impressive start to the season with a 4-0 record. Let's break down each game, and later, we'll preview their Week 5 matchup against the Detroit Lions. Let's start with the statistics for our first team, Minnesota Vikings. Week 1, Vikings versus 49ers. The Vikings kicked off their season with a hard-fought win against the San Francisco 49ers. Their defense played a key role, holding the 49ers in check throughout the game. Quarterback Sam Darnold passed for over 230 yards, and Justin Jefferson contributed 80 yards receiving. This opening win gave the Vikings momentum for the season. Week 2, Vikings versus Texans. In Week 2, the Vikings dominated the Houston Texans. Their defense was on fire, allowing only one touchdown while their offense clicked into high gear. Aaron Jones rushed for 120 yards and a touchdown, while Darnold threw for 3 TDs. This was a statement win for the Vikings, showing their balance on both sides of the ball. Week 3, Vikings versus Packers. Week 3 was an absolute thriller against the Green Bay Packers. The Vikings were in a back-and-forth battle, and the game came down to a final drive. With less than a minute left, Darnold led a game-winning touchdown drive, sealing the win. This was a massive victory, especially against a division rival. Week 4, Vikings versus Jets. Another close contest in Week 4 saw the Vikings edge out the New York Jets. The defense stepped up again, forcing crucial turnovers, and Jefferson had a breakout game with 110 yards and a touchdown. Despite some struggles in the red zone, they held on for the win and continued their undefeated streak. Week 5 preview, Vikings versus Lions. Now, the Vikings face their toughest test yet in Week 5 against the Detroit Lions. The Lions have had a strong season so far, and this divisional matchup will be a key game for both teams. The Vikings defense will need to contain the Lions' high-powered offense, and the offense will have to exploit Detroit's secondary. Conclusion: the Vikings are off to an incredible start this season, but their Week 5 matchup against the Lions could be their biggest challenge yet. Now, let's take a look at how the Detroit Lions have performed in the first 5 weeks of the 2024 season. They've managed to secure wins in 4 out of 5 games, showcasing their strength on both sides of the ball. Week 1, Detroit Lions versus Arizona Cardinals. The Lions came out strong in their season opener, putting up 35 points against the Cardinals. Their defense was solid, only allowing 13 points. The offense capitalized on multiple scoring drives. Week 2, Detroit Lions versus Las Vegas Raiders. In Week 2, the Lions continued their winning streak, defeating the Raiders with a 38-20 victory. Their rushing game was particularly impressive, racking up 200-plus yards on the ground. Week 3, Detroit Lions versus Atlanta Falcons. Another win in Week 3, this time against the Falcons, with the defense stepping up in crucial moments. The Lions' ability to create turnovers and pressure the Falcons' quarterback was a highlight of this game. Week 4, Detroit Lions versus Chicago Bears. The Lions stumbled in Week 4, suffering their first loss of the season to the Bears. This was a tough game for the offense, which struggled to find momentum. The Bears' defense was relentless, holding the Lions to just 10 points. Week 5, Detroit Lions versus Green Bay Packers. In Week 5, the Lions bounced back with a narrow victory over the Packers. This was a hard-fought game, with the Lions coming out on top thanks to some clutch plays from their star players in the fourth quarter. Conclusion: so, what's next for the Detroit Lions? With a 4-1 record, they're in a great position heading into Week 6. Their offense is balanced, their defense is aggressive, and they're playing with confidence. If they can keep up this level of play, they'll be a tough team to beat for the rest of the season. Moving on to Minnesota Vikings roster and taking a closer look at some standout individual player stats that are shaping the season. Quarterback, Kirk Cousins. First up, let's talk about the Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. This season, he's thrown for 1,525 yards with a touchdown-to-interception ratio of 12-3. His ability to manage the game and deliver under pressure has been crucial. For example, in the game against the San Francisco 49ers, he completed 72% of his passes, leading the team to a critical victory. Running back, Alexander Mattison. Moving on to the backfield, we have Alexander Mattison. He's been a powerhouse, rushing for 392 yards this season, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. His performance against the Chicago Bears was particularly impressive, where he rushed for 120 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. His ability to break tackles and gain extra yards after contact has made him a key component of the Vikings' offense. Now, let's highlight the receiving core, starting with Justin Jefferson. With 48 receptions for 650 yards, he's proven to be a reliable target. Notably, he had a breakout game against the Green Bay Packers, catching 10 passes for 150 yards and 1 touchdown. His speed and route running ability have opened up the field for the Vikings' passing game. Defense, Danielle Hunter. Switching gears to the defense, we can't forget about Danielle Hunter. He's been a force on the defensive line with 6 sacks and 25 tackles this season. His performance in the matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers included a key sack that helped shut down their offense. His presence on the field has consistently disrupted opposing quarterbacks. Special teams, Greg Joseph. Finally, let's talk special teams. Greg Joseph has been pivotal this season, making 11 out of 13 field goals. His accuracy from 50-plus yards has been impressive, especially in high-pressure situations. In the game against the Los Angeles Chargers, he nailed a game-winning field goal that sent the fans into a frenzy. In conclusion, the Minnesota Vikings have a talented roster filled with standout players, making significant impacts this season. From Kirk Cousins' leadership as quarterback to Alexander Mattison's explosive runs, Justin Jefferson's remarkable receiving skills, Danielle Hunter's defensive prowess, and Greg Joseph's clutch kicking, each player plays a vital role in the team's success. As we move deeper into the season, it'll be exciting to see how these players continue to perform and contribute to the Vikings' playoff aspirations. Now let's dive into the Detroit Lions roster and taking a closer look at some standout individual player stats that are shaping their season. Quarterback, Jared Goff. First up, let's talk about the Lions quarterback, Jared Goff. This season, he's thrown for 1,800 yards with a touchdown-to-interception ratio of 15-5. Goff has shown great poise in the pocket, and his ability to make crucial throws has kept the Lions competitive. In the game again, running back, David Montgomery. Moving on to the backfield, we have David Montgomery. He's been a workhorse for the Lions, rushing for 650 yards this season, averaging 4.2 yards per carry. His performance against the Minnesota Vikings was particularly impressive, where he rushed for 130 yards and scored 1 touchdown. Montgomery's ability to grind out tough yards has been vital to the Lions' offensive strategy. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, let's highlight the receiving core, starting with Amon-Ra St. Brown. With 52 receptions for 600 yards and 4 touchdowns, he's emerged as Goff's favorite target. Notably, he had a standout game against the Chicago Bears, catching 12 passes for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. His agility and route running make him a nightmare for opposing defenses. Defense, Aiden Hutchinson. Switching gears to the defense, we can't forget about Aiden Hutchinson. The young pass rusher has been a game changer, recording 7 sacks and 30 tackles this season. His performance in the matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs included a crucial sack that helped shift the momentum in favor of the Lions. Hutchinson's relentless energy and skill have made him a key asset on the defensive line. Special teams, Riley Patterson. Finally, let's talk special teams. Riley Patterson has been impressive this season, making 13 out of 15 field goals with a long of 54 yards. His consistency has provided the Lions with a reliable scoring option, especially in close games. In the match against the Green Bay Packers, he kicked a crucial field goal in the final minutes to secure the win. And there you have it. A closer look at the standout players on the Detroit Lions and their impressive stats this season. From Jared Goff's sharp passing to Amon-Ra St. Brown's dynamic receiving, it's evident that each of these athletes is playing a vital role in the Lions' success. As they push forward in the season, it'll be thrilling to see how they continue to develop and impact the team's journey toward the playoffs. Moving ahead to injuries of Minnesota Vikings. Now let's look at some of the key injuries currently affecting the Vikings. As of now, the team is dealing with several notable absences that could have significant implications for their performance this season. Justin Jefferson. Let's start with the biggest blow for the Vikings. Star wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Jefferson, one of the league's elite playmakers, is out with a hamstring injury and is currently on injured reserve. He's expected to miss several weeks, and his absence creates a huge gap in the Vikings' passing game. Keep an eye on how the team adjusts with other receivers stepping up to fill his shoes. Josh Oliver. Good news here. Tight end Josh Oliver is fully participating in practice despite a wrist injury. That's a positive for the Vikings, especially since Oliver is essential in both the passing game and as a blocker. Dalton Risner. On the offensive line, guard Dalton Risner is dealing with a back issue and has been limited in practice. His health will be critical in keeping the Vikings' O-line solid, so monitor his status leading up to game day. T.J. Hockenson, a key target for Kirk Cousins, is also on the injury report with a knee issue. While he's been limited in practice, the team is hopeful that he will suit up. This could be a game-time decision, and his presence is crucial, especially with Jefferson out. Caleb Evans. The Vikings secondary could be in trouble with cornerback Caleb Evans nursing a hip injury and not participating in practice. This could lead to issues in the defensive backfield if he's unable to play, especially against deep threats. Patrick Jones, too. Linebacker Patrick Jones, too, has a shoulder injury, but is participating in a limited capacity. If he can play, his ability to bring pressure off the edge will be important, but his status is still something to watch. Impact on the team. With Justin Jefferson sidelined and key offensive players like T.J. Hockenson and Dalton Risner dealing with injuries, the Vikings offense could struggle in both the passing and running game. On defense, the absence of Caleb Evans might open up opportunities for opponents to exploit the secondary. This week, it will be all about how the next man up responds. Now moving on to the latest Detroit Lions injury report heading into Week 7 of the 2024 NFL season. Amon-Ra St. Brown. First up, we have wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's dealing with an ankle injury. He's a critical piece in the Lions' passing game, so his availability is going to be closely monitored leading up to the game. If St. Brown can't play, it'll leave a big gap in the Lions' offense. David Montgomery. Next, David Montgomery will miss the upcoming game with a rib injury. Montgomery's been a huge part of the Lions' rushing attack this season, so this is a significant loss. Backup running backs will need to step up in his absence, which could affect the offensive game plan. Brian Branch. On the bright side, defensive back Brian Branch is back to full participation in practice after dealing with a knee injury. His return is important for the Lions secondary, and he's expected to be in action this week, which should help the team on the defensive side of the ball. Dan Skipper. Good news for the offensive line. Tackle Dan Skipper has fully participated in practice despite a rib injury. Having him back strengthens the offensive line, providing much-needed protection for Jared Goff in the pocket. Frank Ragnow. Center Frank Ragnow was listed on the injury report for rest, but he's back in full participation. This means the Lions' offensive line should be solid with him at the center position, keeping things running smoothly in the trenches. Christian Mahogany. Mahogany has returned to practice after missing time due to an illness, and he's expected to play in the upcoming game, adding more depth to the offensive line. Josh Paschal. Finally, defensive end Josh Paschal is still sidelined with a knee injury. Paschal's absence on the defensive line will hurt the Lions' pass rush and run defense, so the team will need other players to step up and fill the gap. Impact on the team. With David Montgomery out, the Lions will be relying heavily on their backup running backs, which may change the offensive balance. The health of Amon-Ra St. Brown is a key factor. If he's not at full strength or unable to play, the Lions' passing game could struggle. Meanwhile, the return of players like Brian Branch and Dan Skipper should boost both the defense and offensive line. Now let's jump to the Minnesota Vikings 2024 season, breaking down their performance so far on both sides of the ball. Let's kick things off with their offense. The Vikings' offense has amassed a total of 1,654 yards this season, with a clear emphasis on their passing game. They've thrown for an impressive 1,135 yards, showcasing a solid completion rate that demonstrates the capability of their quarterback. However, it hasn't all been smooth sailing, as they've also thrown 11 interceptions. That's a troubling statistic that can change the dynamics of any game. But what about the ground game? Unfortunately, the Vikings have struggled significantly in this department, with just 336 rushing yards and an average of only 3.6 yards per carry. They need to find ways to improve their rushing attack. This lack of a balanced offensive strategy could be a deciding factor as they push for the playoffs. Now, let's turn our attention to the defense. This season has been challenging for the Vikings, particularly in protecting their quarterback. They've allowed 20 sacks, a number that speaks volumes about their offensive line's performance. If they can't provide adequate protection, it puts even more pressure on their passing game. Defensively, the Vikings have forced 16 touchdowns this season, but their struggles with ball security have contributed to a turnover ratio of -4. It's clear that for the Vikings to succeed, they need to tighten their grip on the ball and minimize mistakes. As the season progresses, the Vikings will need to address these issues. With the right adjustments, they can transform their weaknesses into strengths. Can they refine their rushing game and protect their quarterback while improving their turnover situation? Only time will tell. Similarly for Detroit Lions, the Lions have been making waves this season, showcasing a powerful offense. They've accumulated a staggering 1,780 total yards, with a heavy focus on their passing game. With 1,275 passing yards, they've demonstrated both efficiency and big play potential, making them a formidable challenge for any defense. Their passing game has been bolstered by a strong completion rate and the ability to spread the ball around to various receivers. However, the Lions must remain vigilant to avoid costly turnovers, as they've thrown 8 interceptions this season. Protecting the ball will be crucial as they face the Vikings. In addition to their passing prowess, the Lions have also excelled in the run game, accumulating 450 rushing yards with an impressive average of 4.7 yards per carry. This balanced offensive approach keeps defenses on their toes and creates opportunities for explosive plays. Now, let's take a look at the Lions' defense. They've shown resilience with a total of 15 sacks this season, putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks and disrupting their rhythm. This will be essential against a Vikings team that has struggled with pass protection. However, the Lions' defense has allowed 18 touchdowns, which indicates areas where they can improve. Additionally, their turnover ratio sits at +2, suggesting they've been able to capitalize on opportunities when they arise. If they can continue forcing turnovers while tightening their coverage, they'll have a good chance to stifle the Vikings' offense. As the Lions prepare for this critical matchup against the Vikings, their ability to maintain offensive momentum and enhance their defensive performance will be key. Can they leverage their strong passing game, establish the run, and put pressure on the Vikings quarterback? This could be a pivotal game in their season. Now let's start with the most important topic: top picks, odds, money line. Predictions for Minnesota Vikings versus Detroit Lions. First, let's look at the odds. As of now, the Detroit Lions are favored to win this matchup with a spread of -3 points, while the Minnesota Vikings are at +3. On the money line, the Lions are sitting at -150, meaning you need to bet $150 to win $100. The Vikings, on the other hand, are listed at +130, indicating that a $100 bet could yield a $130 profit if they pull off the upset. Now, let's talk about some top picks. For the Lions, keep an eye on their quarterback, who's been making waves this season with a strong passing game. He's been effective in spreading the ball around and capitalizing on mismatches in the defense. The Vikings defense will need to step up to contain him. On the Vikings side, their standout receiver is someone you definitely want to watch. He's been a consistent target and has the potential to break open big plays, especially if the Vikings can establish their passing game early on. Now, let's move on to predictions. The Lions have shown they can score quickly and efficiently, while the Vikings have struggled with ball security. Based on current form and injuries, our prediction leans towards the Lions taking this one. They have a strong home field advantage and the offensive firepower to keep the Vikings on their heels. However, if the Vikings can manage to establish their run game and protect the quarterback, they could very well pull off an upset. It's a classic case of an explosive offense versus a team trying to find its rhythm. For those of you looking to play some bets, consider taking the Lions to cover the spread. Their offense has been potent, and if they can limit turnovers, they should have the edge. However, if you're feeling risky, a small bet on the Vikings to win outright could pay off nicely given their potential to surprise. And there you have it, folks. The Minnesota Vikings versus Detroit Lions is shaping up to be an electrifying matchup with plenty of excitement on both sides of the ball. Whether you're rooting for the Lions to maintain their momentum or hoping for a Vikings upset, it's sure to be a game worth watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video, share it with your fellow football fans, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis and predictions. Your support helps us keep bringing you the best content. We want to hear from you too. Drop your predictions in the comments below. Who do you think will take the victory this week? Until next time, keep the passion for football alive